So my husband and I are in this parking lot sitting in a police car when the policeman turns around and he says, "I have some sad news to share. Your son Charles has been found dead this morning. Cause of death, suicide." Charles was the funniest and most popular kid in high school. Yet the funniest and most popular kid in high school was depressed, became addicted to heroin, and killed himself 4 years ago. Nothing prepares you for that kind of loss. So around that time, I was a member of this chamber, as I have been for the last 11 years. And I owned a digital marketing company called Impression Marketing that I co-owned with Howard Deskin, who is also in this chamber. This is the ribbon cutting. So how did I smile through that ribbon cutting when my son was in jail in another state? How did I get up, go to work, give presentations on social media when my son was in rehab? And how did I get up, go to work, put a smile on my face 1 week after my son killed himself? Because I had to. And there are many people in this room that have had to do the same, that have struggled with a mental illness or addiction of a loved one and had to power through it at work. So about that same year, we were visited by the Virginia Chamber, and they wanted us to rank in order of importance many of the school curriculum subjects. So we were supposed to take our mobile phones and vote which we felt was the most important in school: math, science, English, art, and soft skills. So everything was ranked. I voted soft skills number 1. I call them essential skills. And it came in last with 3% of the vote. So how are our kids coping? Well, unfortunately, because they don't get as much playground time as they used to, they're coping by using drugs and alcohol a lot of times. The trouble with that is the teenage brain is in critical development at that time. So substances taken during that time can be damaging for a lifetime. It creates a lot of really bad habits, and your adolescent probably has close to a 20% chance of becoming addicted, whereas you might have about 10%. Suicide is the number 2 cause of death for 15 to 34-year-olds. This is a huge increase. And unfortunately, a lot of our teenagers see that as an option. And then last year, we lost 1,500 kids to overdose, not people. So that is way underreported, because many counties don't have to report overdoses. But let's go with that number. So what we have found out is a study done right here in Chesterfield County that when we asked those people who suffer with substance use disorder when they started using an opiate, a prescription medication opiate, 12 to 17 is when they started. 30% were using heroin between the ages of 12 and 17. So while the average age of overdose is 32, what we have found out is they're using a lot sooner, and not just marijuana and alcohol. So it wasn't long after my son died that I started this blog, Emotionally Naked, to work through the grief, talk about all those taboo topics that nobody wanted to discuss. And after I wrote an article in the newspaper that went viral, this blog became suddenly popular. And the good part about that is that when you have a popular blog and there is something new out there that's really awesome, about 50 people will send you the link to that article. And this was that kind of article. The 4 traits that put kids at risk for addiction. I read every word probably 12 times. In that article, they talked about this program called Preventure that was developed by Dr. Patricia Conrad in Canada. I contacted her. I want that program targeted to those 4 traits. I want it in Virginia. How can I make that happen? I thought, I'm not going to hear from her. 15 minutes later, I get an email back. There is only one person in the United States that has shown any interest in this program. Now, this was back in 2016. Dr. Jasmine Fasilva at VCU Institute of Drug and Alcohol Studies. This was meant to be. She is 4 miles away from my house. She lives 1 mile away from my house. She was just as anxious to meet me as I was to meet her. And we vowed we were going to bring this program to Richmond. And let's see, we struggled to get money. And finally, we won the CCTR grant from VCU in January. So we are funded for the first, thank you. This is the first study of this intervention in the United States. So while the program has been implemented in other states, this is the first study. And we'll be looking at a teacher-delivered model. So, what is Preventure? It's personality-targeted life skills training. And it's been shown to reduce drug and alcohol use in schools by up to 80% at 3-year follow-up. Now you know why I was interested. It's also one of the few evidence-based programs for adolescent prevention included in the Surgeon General's report on alcohol, drugs, and health. So what are those 4 personality traits? Sensation seeking, anxiety, sensitivity, negative thinking, and impulsiveness. Those are the 4 traits that can potentially be troublesome for teenagers. But you know what else? They're also the traits of our most decorated Olympic athletes. They are the traits, the people we like to hear about in the news, the entrepreneurs, the innovators. There are also traits of those musicians and actors we love to see the most. So what we're trying to do is channel those personality traits to success as opposed to drug use. Now, this program doesn't cure addiction, because we don't know who out there might have that gene in their head that can be triggered by a medication. We don't know. But it does delay the use. The younger people start to use, the higher they are at risk for early death. And we all want to avoid that. I don't want any one of you standing in my shoes, because this journey is tough. So how do we figure out who has what personality trait? We do a questionnaire of 23 questions, and it's a personality test. Now, we will be doing additional assessments because this is a study, but I'm going to focus on this one because it's the main one. And we will categorize students which personality trait might be troublesome. 45% of the students of a particular school will qualify. And there will be 4 45-minute sessions for each personality trait. So what does that mean? So let's say somebody takes the personality quiz and they score high on all 4, but impulsivity is the highest. So that child would be invited to a workshop to channel his personality trait for success. And then there would be 4 different workshops for that child and all the other children that rated high on impulsivity to channel that personality trait towards success. So what does that look like? So basically it's cognitive behavioral therapy, better known as we tell stories. They do role play. They talk about consequences. And we teach them that, okay, let's say you're in the anxiety group, that fear that they feel, they need to stop and pause and think. And they need to act accordingly. So we're teaching kids how to make better choices. How many of you have told your kids, go out there and make better choices? But we don't tell them how, right? We're teaching them how. And we're teaching it during the time when their brain development is in the most critical stage so that they can make this a habit. And what the result is that kids aren't using drugs and alcohol to cope with these problems. They're using these skills instead. Each child will get his or her own manual. These manuals are illustrated just for teenagers. So they get them, they like them, and then they have scenarios that they deal with. So teenagers get to keep these, they get to take them home, they get to write in them. So what for schools? Benford Middle and Richmond Public Schools, St. Gertrude, and in Chesterfield County, Carver Academy, and Midlothian High. We're having training in August, and we'll be training teachers. Because here's the thing. That's actually the main goal, is to see how a teacher-delivered model, large scale, will work. So in past studies, the ones done by teachers and the ones done by school counselors, the outcomes were pretty much the same. But they weren't large-scale teacher-delivered models. Well, we kind of have to do it here because we have one school counselor for every 500 students in Chesterfield County, well below the average of 1 for every 250. Kath Haynes is here today. Yes, thank you. She's advocating that we have one counselor for every 250 students. I'm endorsing her. So we're having the training, and we'll start training the teachers. And we're also going to try to train the trainers so we're not dependent on the Canadians to fly down here and train us every time. So why are we seeing so much depression and addiction? We like to blame it on the cell phone, social media, everything. But the truth is, when everything went digital, that which we thought would bring us together pushed us further apart. We're so busy now. Kids aren't getting out and playing like they used to. And those were key skills that they learned to develop on that playground. Leadership, negotiation. I made somebody mad in that friend group. I had to figure out how to win my way back in. Kids are getting 45% less face time with their friends than the generation before. You guys, we're human beings. We love to connect. We will figure this out. And we are figuring it out. And this program really supports that creating a culture of connection. And that's what my son stood for. And that's why I do everything that I do. So thank you so much for listening and cheering me on and supporting. I really appreciate it.